Uh, World War II is one of the biggest wars that the world has ever seen, hence seeing the name. And during this war, each country was at arms with another country, ready to fight for their own survival. They were all at fear of what could happen in the blink of an eye. And because of this, they developed weapons, tools, to protect themselves and possibly conquer others. And one of these tools that was created was the USS Alabama, or BB-60. It was constructed at Norfolk Shipyard as the fourth and final South Dakota-class ship. It entered the war in February 16th, 1942. The first ship to ever have the name Alabama was a CSS revenue cutter. It was developed at New York and fought for the South in the Civil War. It was a 56-ton ship, making it rather heavy for the time, and still is rather heavy for battleships to this day. The USS Alabama, even though a rather small and light ship, was very, very heavily armed, and these armaments consisted of three 45 caliber turrets, 10 38 caliber mounts, 12 40mm cannons, which these could shoot actually a small car and accurately for 100 miles, and 50 20mm guns. It had a large crew for its size also. It had housed 127 officers and 2,205 enlisted workmen aboard the ship whenever it first set sail into the sea. It was one of the faster ships, as all South Dakota-class ships were during the war. It had a top speed of 28 knots, topping just about every other ship. It was rather lightly armored, giving it speed. The turret faces were only 18 inches, the tower was only 16 inches, and its side armor was 12 inches, tapering down to 1 inch, leaving it very vulnerable the lower you go. The build of the ship was light and very agile, so it can maneuver around bombardments, and its displacement was only 44,000 tons, making it lighter than the CSS Revenue Cutter, which I went over at the beginning, which was 56,000 tons. The USS Alabama saw a lot of combat in its few years of service. Its first insurgency was Operation Governor, in which it sailed around the island of Sicily in order to draw German surveillance to looking at it and a few other battleships that joined it. Another goal for this operation was to try to lure out the prized German naval destroyer, the Tirpitz, which they did not successfully do. It remained at port. A common thing the USS Alabama operated in was escort duty. It would escort large aircraft carriers around Japan. It was often used against Japan missions to harm the Japanese. Its most major engagements and memorial ones was Gilbert Islands, where it fought heavy, very heavy aircraft bombardments and tried to protect aircraft carriers in that area. Also, the bombardments of Tokyo. It wasn't necessarily as dangerous, it was just more very unrelenting and very high casualties. So they would strike oil fields and construction plants, steel and mining facilities in Tokyo and around Tokyo and other major cities of Japan. The USS Alabama had rather very few incidents for its service. One of the big incidents was a turret mishap that happened during air combat whenever they were on escort duty protecting a carrier. One of the turrets was shooting at an enemy kamikaze as it was coming in, but as it was doing so, they got carried away and kept firing, and actually fired into another turret mount, killing 5 and injuring 11. Another one that happened a year or two later was whenever they were in the middle of sea and they were caught in a typhoon, an actual tornado of water that they were caught in, and it gave it actually rather minor damage, and they were able to sail back to the dry dock for repairs, and it soon entered the war again. After the war, it earned 9 battle stars for its large major engagements, a Navy Occupation Award for its duty also. After it, though, in the early 1960s, it was ordered to be scrapped with all other South Dakota class ships. The school system really despised this idea, and they hosted fundraisers in order to stop it. The school system gained $100,000 in just pennies and nickels. After that act, they decided that they would donate the USS Alabama as a museum to Mobile, in which it remains today in Mobile County as a museum which you can go and explore for a small fee of $20 or $15 if you're a child or senior. And that is the story of the USS Alabama, the BB-60, which was used to protect us, the citizens of America, and to try to keep our peace from the Japanese. The Japanese actually also had very large plans. They didn't just plan on crippling America, they planned on conquering it. They actually thought they would easily be able to take over all of America, and they, believe it or not, they were actually printing money, real currency that they would use in America after they conquered it. I thought that was very interesting. The fact that they thought they would so easily be able to conquer America, and yeah, I better